Welcome everybody to Sports on Tap. My name is Ed Dick. I'm alongside Rob Troutman, Sean Duffy, Josh Duffy, and Noah Jacobson. We are Sports on Tap. You're watching us live on our YouTube page, Sports on Tap. Make sure you're checking us out on our website, sportsontappodcast.com. That's where you're going to get all the latest news, scores, standings, schedules for everything that we're talking about with respect to high school football. You also follow us on Twitter at SOT Podcast. That's where you can catch all of our live updates for the featured games of the week that we do for that specific week. This past week, our featured game of the week was Holy Name at against Padua. That game was played in Maple Heights. It was for the Division III Region 10 Championship, and our own Josh Jeffy was out there providing coverage there. He had a great video from that on our website and on our YouTube page. Make sure you're following us also on Twitter. On our Facebook page, Sports on Tap, as well. And you can send any sort of comments, stats, pronunciations to sportsontap@gmail.com, where Josh Jeffy will inevitably be our cheerleader when it comes to trying to pronounce these names, because that's what he does. So it's hard to believe that we are already through 4 weeks of the playoffs. We have gotten through the regional round. We are into the state semifinals. So we have lots to talk about here. We have specifically 4 regional championships to talk about today. So we will get through those. We will talk specifically about Division I, Region 1, Division II, Region 5, Division II, Region 6, and Division III, Region 10. Our other two regions, Division III, Region 9, and Division 4, Region 14. Unfortunately, our teams did not get that far. They had great seasons. But their seasons ended a little quicker than we wanted them to when it came to that further round. We also are going to be joined by Holy Name quarterback senior Jayvon Williams. He is approaching friend of show status. I think this will be his 3rd time on our show, 2nd time this season. As a spoiler alert, he led the Holy Name Green Wave to their first regional championship in 47 years. Alongside a bunch of his, the teammates. We talked with Austin Wondolowski and Christian Sanchez last week, right before this contest against Padua. We will also have Holy Name Green Wave head coach Dan Wondolowski will be joining us today as well. He's been at Holy Name for, I believe, 8 years now at this point, 8 or 9 years. He is a graduate of Mount Union. I think he just graduated right before I got there. He has a couple national championships to his name as a cornerback there, and has been at Holy Name, has done a tremendous job with that program ever since Coach Pinzoni left to take over Buckeye. Let's talk about our sponsors here real quick before we get to the show. Bandwagon Fantasy Sports. We're getting close to the end of the season here, but that doesn't mean you can't take a look at bandwagonfantasysports.com. They do a fantasy sports platform focused on teams rather than individual players. They work specifically with college football. They do Division I schools specifically. They have 106 teams to pick from the Power 5 conferences, the independents, the MAC, the American Conference, and the Mountain West conferences. You can pick any one of those teams. You can get up to 8. You can draft a roster of 8 full teams using $36. Each game your team wins gives you points in the standings. Road wins are built into the tiebreaker. You can add or drop teams up to 25 times at any point during the season. Right now, we are well past week 6, so the dollar amounts of the teams reflect where they actually are in the ranking systems. So it's up to you to figure out whose bandwagon you want to jump on or off throughout the course of the season. And jumping on a team before they get hot gives you a huge advantage. Talk lots of trash and figure out who truly is the king or queen of college football in 2022. Bandwagon Fantasy Sports, not daily, not traditional, just teams, just win. Also, Raymond Felton State Farm Insurance. Raymond Felton State Farm, they always put the customer's need first. Call for a quick quote to get the discounts you deserve and the coverage you are looking for. He'll provide a free auto quote to see if he can save you money on your auto insurance. Give him a call at 234-284-2996. You can also visit them at 5603 Darrow Road, Suite 500 in beautiful Hudson, Ohio. RRT Productions. We shoot, we edit, you win. RRT Productions can shoot video of your event, game, or special occasion. visit our website at www.rrt-productions.com to contact us today. GV Art and Design. You can see them at gvartwork.com. They have tremendous local and professional college and team sports shirts all over the place. I personally, they have one Mount Union shirt, and I have it, and it's fantastic. Make sure you visit them at gvartwork.com. Use the promo code ONTAP10 to get 10% off of your order. Last and certainly not least, G&G Fitness Equipment. They have been our Player of the Week sponsor the entire season. You can see them at livefit.com. You can also visit them at G&G Fitness EQ on Twitter. And gentlemen, it's hard to believe we've gotten to this point of the season. It seems like the season has completely flown by. But we're at the state semifinals, and unfortunately for the majority of us, we have 41 teams in our coverage area. There is exactly one team standing going into the state semifinal round. There were some tough matchups for our teams this time around in the regional championship rounds, and we'll get to it here pretty quickly. Sean, as always, has put together a tremendous PowerPoint for us. So we'll start with we'll get that up, and we'll start with Division I, Region 1. We had one game on the docket here. It was the reigning, defending, undisputed Division I champion St. Edward Eagles taking on the Mentor Cardinals, and this game was a little bit on the rough side for Mentor. And Josh, why don't you take it away?
Yeah. Let me see. Okay, good. I'm not on mute. Off to a good start. Unlike Mentor, though, this past week for them, their magical run of a season came to a pretty hefty halt against the top-seeded St. Edward Eagles. And from start to finish, St. Ed's just dominated this game and really just played outstanding, efficient offense and really hard-nosed, tough defense that Mentor could not get anything going. Like I said, Ed's dominated this game from start to finish. They outgained the Cardinals 486 yards to 232 yards. The biggest kind of advantage that Ed's had was the time of possession. St. Ed's almost doubled the amount of time of possession in this game. Ed's had the ball for over 31 minutes, and Mentor had the ball just under 17 minutes in this game. Ed started the game off with a long, I believe, 12-play drive that went over 80 yards for the first score of the game. They also added another long drive in the fourth quarter that took up almost 6 minutes of the clock, and they scored another touchdown. And just Mentor couldn't do anything on the offensive end. They only had 21 rushing yards as a team. Scotty Fox, his magic came to an end, 24 of 43 for 2 interceptions, both by Cy Colvin Jr. On the Ed's defense. Just Scotty could do nothing right in this game. So give credit to Ed's defense. They really buckled down. And one thing that Coach Tom Lombardo said for Ed's is, during the warmer months, offenses were more high powered. They were able to run the ball, pass the ball. Teams were flying around. But, being out there this past Friday and even into Saturday, the temperature was frigid out there. It was much, much different. In 2 week spans, we went from decent weather to in the regional semifinal matchups, it was crappy weather with rain and precipitation. And then this past week, we had snow showers and frigid 20-degree temperatures with a stiff 15 to 20 mile an hour wind. So these teams really had to focus on playing good defense and running the ball. And that's exactly what Ed's did in this game. On the running side offense, Marvin Bell Jr., 26 rushing attempts, for 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. Junior quarterback Casey Bullock for the Eagles was 14 of 18 for 185 yards and a touchdown. So very efficient on the passing end, but where they really hurt Mentor's defense is 90 rushing yards and a touchdown. Mentor only had 2 possessions in the first half of this ball game, so you can see how not only for the Eagles, how their offense was being efficient, using big chunks of that time off, but also their defense playing well. And like you said, Ed, they are the defending reigning Division I champions for a good reason, and they move on to once again try to defend their title. They beat Menor 27-0 in the regional final, Division I, Region 1. Menor finishes its season 9-4. So, kind of looking back at Menor's season, they kind of got off to a little bit of slow start, but towards the end of the season, into the playoffs, they really hit their stride and hit their started getting some good offensive games going as well as their defense. They kind of ran roughshod with after the Medina loss. They ran roughshod through the Greater Cleveland Conference and came in with some momentum into the playoffs. Unfortunately, they ran into a team that has much more momentum, the St. Edward's Eagles, and unfortunately their season came to an end, but nothing to hold their hat on or hold their heads down at. They had a great season for sure. And, you know, with Scotty Fox going next year being a junior, big things I believe are going to be happening for the Cardinals as they continue on with their development with Scotty Fox and Coach Gray leading the way.
I agree with you, Josh. I mean, it's when it comes to Menor, you're used to seeing quarterbacks start as sophomores and starting their developmental path that early. We've seen it with Ian Kipp, Tadas Tatarunas.
You know, very good, Tadas Tatarunas. I haven't said that name in a long time.
I mean, we heard it. We heard it on loop for the better part of 3 years.
Right.
Definitely a tough one to forget there. But as Coach Gray has kind of kept on exactly what Coach Triv started with. A lot of these quarterbacks start young, and they start when he sees that they have a path to being great. You know, you may have someone like a Jacob Snow who can be a serviceable, good quarterback. But if it's even, then they're going to give the nod to the sophomore. And luckily for them this year, they were able to turn Jacob Snow into a weapon. And by having him become a receiver, he knew all the plays. He knows where everything needs to go, and he was able to execute that just as well as a receiver as he would have been as a quarterback. So we'll see if Menor has another massive defensive end in the pipeline. They always seem to have at least one guy who is just an absolute stud. Go back to Tom Strobel, Mitch Berger. I'm going to say there's a Potter there somewhere. These are, it was Brennan this year. These are guys. I mean, they churn out division. They churn out 3-year starting quarterbacks in one Division I monster defensive linemen that both serve as the anchors of those respective units. So I mean, Menor is. We see what Menor has done. I mean, they were the last team standing in the Greater Cleveland Conference this year. They got their revenge on Medina, on the Airbees, and St. Edge is just, they're on another level. I mean, the teams that they played this year, the teams that they beat this year are some of the best teams that you'll see across the country, and St. Edge took them out. And the only team they lost to is a team that's playing for the state semifinal this year as well. So great job by Coach Gray in the Menor Cardinals.
I agree.
All right, Josh, a tremendous job as always this year covering the Greater Cleveland Conference, and also definite assist to Noah Jacobson for his work with specifically with the Medina games and helping us out there. Noah got to see a lot of great games. He's been part of the Medina program, and he's certainly brought that expertise and that additional layer to our show. So Noah, great job this year helping us out with the Greater Cleveland Conference as well.
Thank you, Ed.
All right, let's move on to Division II, Region 5, and it was not so much the reigning defending champions for the state, but certainly the reigning defending regional champions, the Archbishop Hoban Knights, taking on the Hudson Explorers in the Division II Region 5 championship. And Sean, why don't you talk about this one?
Yeah, not much to talk about from the Hudson side of things as they drop for the third straight year to Hoban in the regional finals, this time 41-7. And the real story about this game was Archbishop Hoban running back Lamar Sperling. The guy's been a beast all year. He was a beast in this game. Racked up 293 yards on 36 carries and 5 touchdowns in the game. I mean, Hoban scored 6 times. Lamar Sperling scored 5 of those 6 times. Hudson, Hudson could not get past the Hoban defense. Hoban's defense was in the backfield all night, really disrupting Hudson's offensive output. Hudson did get a touchdown. This one came on a very, very late in the game, 3-yard touchdown by Ian Ludwig, who did finish the game with 85 yards on 18 carries on the night. But it just, I mean, look, Hoban's been doing this for what seems like 5 years. They don't rebuild, they reload. They live in the weight room. It's a simple process. Not to say that it can't get complicated, but it is. They just have great players and they plug them into that system and it just works. They have been running roughshod over this region for the past 5 years, and probably more, and likely will continue that. Hudson had a great year. Their only loss came right here against Hoban. So they ran roughshod over the Suburban League National Division. They didn't lose a game. They were tough all year. But again, this is what Hoban does. They just win playoff football games, taking no shine off of Hudson. The Explorers had a fantastic season. They do finish the season 13-1. And again, as I mentioned, they are the Suburban League National Champions. But unfortunately, their playoff run ends with kind of a clunk with the 41-7 drubbing here by Hoban. And Hoban now moves on to the state semifinals, which is where they have, as I mentioned, have been in this position for the 5 years. And now the hurdle for them is, can they get past the state semifinals, which has been a problem the past couple of years for Hoban to move on to that coveted state championship game. But congratulations to Hudson. Nothing to hang your head about at all. He had a great season, and unfortunately, Lamar Sperling is somebody who is really, really, really impressive. He's a Mr. Football candidate in the state of Ohio. Likely, I don't know who else is up against him, but I mean, with numbers like this in a playoff football game, you got to give the edge to a guy like that. But we'll see. But it was a very, very interesting outcome. But as I mentioned last week, it's what Hoban does, man. Hoban does Hoban things, and that's what happened here. So congratulations to Hoban on moving on to the state semifinals.
Hey, Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was kind of talking about this because it was brought up when I was out in Maple Heights covering the Holy Name games, talking to some of the media members that were on the sideline. But did Sperling have almost over 200 yards in the first half of that game?
Yeah. He scored every touchdown in the first half. He had about, like you said, roughly almost 200 yards before halftime. They were up 27-0. I mean, this was domination, pure and simple. And again, as you mentioned, Josh, in the weather conditions that were Friday night, and you were the only one that can attest to it because you were the one that braved those elements. But I got to believe that if you're a quarterback and a receiver and you're not getting the ball thrown around and you can just hand the ball and run, that's got to be something you can lean on with a guy like Sperling, and Hudson just didn't have an answer for him, it's something that I don't think any team really has had an answer for, outside of your St. Ed's or things like that this year. But in Division II, Region 5, no one's had an answer for Hoban, and they haven't had one for at least 3 straight years. It's not been pretty when they play other teams. I don't think they've really been in a close battle this entire playoff season. I think their closest game was the loss to St. Ed's late in the year. And again, talk about maybe a motivating factor is that's that flaw on a otherwise spurling season, if you will, for Hoban the Knights, and we'll look to, like I said, get over that hump, which is a big hill to climb. I mean, look, once we get into state Final Fours, you're playing teams from, I think they're playing Carroll, Bloom. We'll get to that later on and lay out the state Final Fours. But, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if Hoban can continue this. And I think they could beat you throwing the ball, but they can dominate you running the ball. And that's exactly what they did to Hudson here last Friday night.
I think it's important to note, too, is the defending Division II state champions have been eliminated. So Cincinnati Winton Wizard, no, they lost last week. They're not in the playoffs anymore. So the one hurdle that the one team that has been able to get Hoban in the Division II playoffs in the last 5 or so years, they're not there anymore. It certainly doesn't make it any easier for Hoban, given what they're going to be up against here. next week. As Sean mentioned, we'll go through it a little bit further, but it's just a testament to just how good this team is. I mean, to your point, Sean, their closest game in the playoffs was probably Barberton. And then they had a second look at St. Vincent St. Mary. St. Vincent St. Mary played them pretty well in the regular season. They decided to drub them by 40 in the regional semifinals and left zero doubt as to who is the superior Akron team there. So Coach Tyrell just has that's a program right there, and a very solid one at that. So Sean, as always, tremendous work with the Suburban League this year. Sorry to see their season come to a close. You had 15 teams to work with, soon to be 16 with the addition of Solon next year. But it's one of the best. It's one of the best conferences. You have 2 divisions to cover, and you did an awesome job. So really well done this year, Sean.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's move on to Division 2, Region 6. And this was a rematch from last year between Avon and Toledo Central Catholic. And unfortunately for us, the result was a little bit different than it was last year. Rob, why don't you take this one away?
Yeah, Ed, thanks for that. And unfortunately, turnovers did end the Avon Eagles in this one. And it was early on, though. As Sam DiTilio early on had pressure coming from the side. They were looking to pass, and he fumbled the football and turned it over. So a big turnover. Toledo Central Catholic recovered another drive there. Then another time, Sam DiTilio looking, it got intercepted at the 4-yard line at Toledo Central Catholic. Those were 2 early on turnovers that were turned into points, and Toledo Central Catholic in this one led 14-7 at half. And Toledo Central Catholic in this one, after one quarter, they led 7-0, and that's with a Chris Edmonds touchdown. He had 2 touchdowns in this game. DiTilio, another running touchdown early on in the second quarter to tie it. But looking at this game, Toledo Central Catholic, that's the one thing they did really well in this game, is take advantage of those turnovers and convert them into points. Before halftime with 1:13 left, that's when Toledo Central Catholic scored to make it 14-7. So it's 14-7 at halftime. And actually in this game, Avon defensive tackle Amin Abdul suffered a pretty serious injury, had to be carted off on a stretcher. He didn't return in this game, but the 2 turnovers were big early on in the first half for Toledo Central Catholic. Then in the third quarter with 10:14 left, they would score again, and it was Tywan Clark connecting with Braden Owls for an 8-yard touchdown pass. It was 21-7 in this game, and you're getting a little worried here that Toledo Central Catholic might run away with it, because then Chris Edmonds, he actually scored his 3rd touchdown, rushing touchdown from 17 yards out. It was 28-7. And this is with 10:42 left in the fourth quarter. DiTilio, though, again, they would score with Gavin Earhart. We had him on the show, 1-yard touchdown run into the end zone. It was 28-14. This was with 8:59. Then DiTilio, a 2-yard touchdown run. They tried for 2 in this one and did not get it. It was 28-20 with 3:45 left. And near the end of the game, Avon did have a shot, and we're driving, but that drive would stall. 28-20, as you see right there on your screen, was the final. Toledo Central Catholic, again, takes advantage of the turnovers and advances in this one. Last year, like you said, Ed, Avon was successful last year, and they took advantage of turnovers last year versus Toledo Central Catholic. I believe they had 4 turnovers early on in an overtime victory by Avon versus them last year in the regional final. This year, I think Toledo Central Catholic remembered that game and took care of the football. But for Avon, again, a tough loss. And Mike Elder, if you go to the Chronicle Telegram, Sean Bennett was there, and he did a great job covering this game, and he interviewed Mike Elder. And Coach Elder said that the 2 turnovers were just backbreakers early on. Even though it was early on in the game, we saw this from Avon in the Olmsted Falls game. They started off a little slow, where Olmsted Falls scored first. then they did respond and tie the game. But in this one, they got down too much early, trailed 28-7 and just could not get over that hump there. So again, 28-20 your final, and Avon now knocked out of the playoffs. But a great year by Avon, and again, just a class of the Southwestern Conference. Congratulations to Mike Elder, and obviously Sam DiTilio with a great year. You had Ethan Holbrook and many, many more there in Avon. A great program, and I know it's not the year they wanted. They wanted to continue on and go farther like they've done in the past, but sometimes this happens, and they still had a sensational year.
No doubt, Rob. I mean, Coach Elder, again, same thing that we've talked about with Hoban. Quite honestly, I mean, Avon is a tremendous program, and this doesn't take that away. I mean, Toledo Central Catholic has been a very, very good program for years. Probably border on the last 10 or 15 years. They've been a powerhouse, and really whatever region they've been in. So, I mean, we talked with Sam DiTilio, we talked with Earhart, and Coach Elder. I mean, Avon, this certainly hurts, but we know what Coach Elder and Avon brings to the table. I have no doubt that they're going to be back next year, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, they continue to, instead of rebuilding, I mean, they just retool every year. They have guys that are in the system that are young, that had a lot of playing time this year. And that experience really helps Avon. Just to play on Friday nights as a sophomore or a junior, you see the seniors, they lead, they have programs that really help the younger kids, and you see it. You see them get playing time. I mean, Jacorian Caffey, the running back for Avon, only a junior this year, so he's coming back. Had a great year. Next year, I think he's going to be even better. You see some of the, DiTilio and Holbrook are gone, and that's a dynamic combo, but we had a chance to see some other weapons in some blowouts, and they got playing time, so they're going to be good. Again, this loss, it does end Avon's streak, 5 straight appearances in the Division II state semifinals. So that streak is broke. But I mean, look at that, 5 straight appearances. I mean, that's impressive from Mike Elder and his Avon Eagles. And like you said, Ed, they'll be an impressive team next year. The way Elder has his teams, I mean, very fundamentally sound, and they know how to play the right way, and they'll be back next year. As much as this one hurts, still a great year for the Eagles, and maybe we'll see though the Bulldogs or another team, North Ridgeville and that Southwestern Conference. A lot of good performances. I mean, Avon Lake, they had a lot of players injured. They played Toledo Central Catholic and lost 21-0, but they held them close and were right there too. So the Southwestern Conference, I thought, was represented very well this year, and we'll see what happens next year. It'll be a lot of fun to cover. Thanks again to all the ADs and coaches and players from the Southwestern Conference who have taken time to come on our show and send us emails with stats and updates and all that. I mean, it does mean a lot, and it makes our show even better. So hopefully next year we can get even more of that and, continue on having players and coaches on to talk to us. So want to thank them and everybody for their contribution to the show this year.
Absolutely, Rob. I apologize. Holbrook. We had Ethan Holbrook. I believe we have Ethan Holbrook on, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And who had a great year. I mean, you're right, Rob. I mean, Jacorian Caffey comes back, and you would automatically assume that Coach Elder might want to just take that and ride him as much as he can. But we know that's not what Avon does. Avon will find. They'll find another quarterback. They'll find more receivers. They'll find linemen. They'll find more ways to be able to play to their strengths, play to the strengths of their opponents. There could be some games where Caffey is running 30, 35 times a game. There could be some times where he's running 10 to 15 and maybe more of a threat out of the backfield. And who knows what he might be doing defensively next year too either. So the cupboard is usually never bare in Avon, and we'll certainly see what they can do next year. But congratulations to Toledo Central Catholic. They defeated the Southwestern Conference champion and the Suburban League Conference champion on their way to this. So they certainly They certainly earned they earned this.
Absolutely.
No ifs, ands, or buts. They earned where they are at.
Yep.
Rob, great work with the Southwestern Conference as always. And we'll look forward to seeing what's going on next year.
Yeah, appreciate it, Ed. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to the next game. This was I would say a shocker. The Division III Region 9 championship between the Canfield Cardinals and the Chardon Hilltoppers, and Canfield comes away with the upset victory. I would say it's an upset because they're not used to seeing Chardon lose really ever at all. It did happen this year with Riverside, but Canfield, they came to play. It was a tough game though. It was a tough game, tough sledding for both really. But for Canfield, Danny Inglis ran a 55-yard touchdown with less than 5 minutes left in the game, and that was the decider. That's all they needed. It was 14-7. Chardon goes down in the Division III Region 9 championship game. Certainly no shame for Chardon. That is another tremendous program. They won 31 consecutive games before they lost to Riverside. They've won 2 Division III state championships. Their baseball team won the state championship, but that contained a lot of the football players that made their run the last couple of years. Chardon is just a factory of athletes, and I tell you what, that speaks to how good Canfield is. If they are able to not only hold Chardon to 7 points, but also halt them in the playoffs, which is something that no team has done in the last 3 years. So congratulations to Chardon, another great year, and certainly congratulations to Canfield on their regional championship, and they are moving on. All right, our featured game of the week was the Holy Name Green Wave, the champions of the Great Lakes East Division and the conference, taking on their crosstown rival, the Padua Franciscan Bruins. They finished second in the Crown Conference. They went on quite the roll themselves in the playoffs. Our own Josh Jeffy was there covering this game. And Josh, man, I tell you what, when I saw the score and I was following this along, I was a little surprised. Not that I was surprised about where things were going, but knowing how well these teams know each other, let me tell you what, it was overwhelming to see just how far ahead one team was.
Yeah, and specifically, Ed, these two teams played in week 1, and it was a very close game. 21-16, Holy Name came out with the victory in week 1. But yeah, like you said, Holy Name got out to a quick 35-0 lead in this game just shortly into the second quarter, and I was like, "Whoa, this was definitely surprising." So we had to start the game 2 touchdown runs by Austin Wondolowski. He had touchdown runs of 41 and 31 yards. That big plays were the name of the game in this one for the Green Wave. They actually had 8 plays of 30 yards or more. And they, and when we're talking about offense, especially the running game, this was Holy Name's game right here. They had over 500 yards of offense, and it was all on the ground. So they really saw something on film that they thought they were able to run the ball in Padua, and they sure did, to the likes of, like I said, over 500 yards as a team. So let's quickly run through some of these stats on the running, because the 3 players that led the way for the Green Wave are 3 players that have been on our show, and that's no coincidence. So we're going to start with the aforementioned Austin Wondolowski. He had 2 touchdowns, 143 yards. Christian Sanchez had 112 yards and 1 score. And then our guest here in approximately 10 minutes, Jayvon Williams, had 4 touchdowns of 19 yards, 63 yards, 45 yards, and 54 yards. He had 274 yards rushing on the game. And towards the end of the second quarter here, Padua actually started gaining some momentum. They did score on a long 84-yard. They did score a touchdown, and then they were able to do 2 consecutive 3-and-outs. Their defense was able to put Holy Name 2 consecutive 3-and-outs, and they were able to score another touchdown. So they had 14 unanswered points going into halftime, and they did get the ball to start the second half. However, they could not do anything. Holy Name's defense came out, stopped them on 3 plays. They cannot convert a first down. And then from there, Holy Name scored 3 more times. Padua in this matchup did add a touchdown later in the second half, but it was not enough. They went on to a 56-21 victory. This is the 3rd year in a row that Holy Name was in the regional finals, and the first time, like you said earlier in the show today, since 1975 that they made it to the state Final Four. So congratulations to the Green Wave. This was a very cold game, I'll say that. So I want to give a shout out to Maple Heights and whomever, whether it's their Board of Education, their athletic department, but whoever decided to put the electric heaters on the sidelines. I used that heater at halftime, so they are the real MVP. But fellas, it was a fun game. Even though it was very cold, it was fun to be out there. We had some snow showers, just kind of setting the mood. And the highlight video, it took forever to finally upload on YouTube. I don't know what the heck YouTube's problem was this past weekend, but it finally went up there late Saturday. So if you have not seen the highlight video, head over to our YouTube page. You can check that out. It's there. A lot of good highlights if you're a Holy Name Green Wave fan, and especially if you like long running plays, because this game was full of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm showing now, Josh, and it looks like Holy Name had some misdirection running plays too. It looked like, they tried to run it up the middle, but then went to Wondolowski around the outside. Jayvon Williams is running. They had all kinds of different people taking the handoff, it looks like.
Yeah, and that was when Coach Wondolowski was talking. I read the article in Cleveland.com, and he said that play, actually the 2 plays where Austin scored on, though, they just put those into the playbook this week because they saw in film how the Padua defense would attack and kind of sink into the middle. And they were able to put in those sweep plays for Austin, and on two plays of over 30 yards, he was able to score. So, that's something we'll talk to head coach Dan Wondolowski here in a little bit as well. And that's a good question to ask him about. That's an adjustment that they made, and that's one of the pros of playing a team for the second time in a season. You can see how they played you on the defensive end, and you could utilize that and put in some wrinkles and some misdirections, and that's what they did, and they did it well.
It's very interesting that last week we had Austin and Christian on the show, and the one thing that they both kind of simultaneously said is they had to get off to a quick start. And when I was checking on Twitter, and I was mainly just making sure, Josh, that you weren't a Josh sickle, freezing your patootie off. I was like, wow, I was really, like you said, I was really impressed. I mean, at one point it was 35-0. And I was like, wow, mission accomplished, because now you've created such an opportunity or such a problem for Padua to come back. And really you can and it's all on the run game, which allows you, 1, to control the clock, and 2, which allows you to really kind of impose your will on the line of scrimmage, which is demoralizing for a lot of teams. If they're running straight at or running those sweeps, there's nothing you can do to stop them. That makes it for a very long night from a Padua standpoint. And congratulations to Holy Name. They got to be feeling good. As Ed mentioned, they're regional champs the first time, and as you mentioned, Josh, since the 70s. And that's something to be pretty proud of. And
you mentioned, Ed, I want to give a shout out to the Holy Name defense as well, because when you're up 35-0, you know exactly what the other team has to do. They're going to have to pass to get back in the game, and their defense, starting with their defensive line and then back, really played a physical game. Got a couple good hits by some of their defenders on the highlight video. And then late in the game, they also got a couple interceptions as well. So they came through, and it was a total team effort, except for the wide receivers. They did a great job blocking, but they didn't have to catch the ball. But yeah, really, it was a total team effort in this one. Very impressive. And I thought that too, Ed or Sean, when you said that last week. I was thinking that at the game, like, wow, both these guys said that they've been getting off to slow starts. They got to get off to a faster start, and sure enough, they did, and they did to the extreme.
Hey, Josh, I'm curious. What do you think that did Holy Name just straight up overpower Padua, or were they able to create situations where Padua was Padua maybe too aggressive and they were able to use that against them, or was it maybe a combination of both?
Maybe a combination of both, Ed. But when you have 8 plays of over 30 yards and a lot of them score, to me that's just straight domination when it comes to blocking from all levels of blocking. Yeah, I think on both ends of the ball, I think just Holy Name was more physical. They had a mission. They set out to be more physical and really establish that running game. Obviously, if you have 500 yards rushing, total offense and no passing, they really set the tone. Now, granted, did the weather play part of that? Who knows? But I think in this game, Holy Name was just proposing their will on Padua, and I don't think Padua had any answer for it.
And the defense was impressive by Holy Name. I mean, you saw some big hits in the highlight video. And, the snow was coming down. I think it was in the second quarter there, but it didn't look like it was too bad.
No, it wasn't bad at all. It was more like a snow globe, kind of picturesque. It was a good atmosphere for playoff football.
And Josh, thank you for going out for that game and really kind of hanging on to the Holy Name train as of late.
I got all my fingers too. I wore no gloves during that game, so I had the hot hands in the pocket. Yeah, it's hard to tweet when you got gloves on. So
that's
Josh has always had those spirit fingers, though. That's the one.
The jazz hands.
That's the equivalent of linemen not wearing sleeves when they're playing in those cold games. Exactly what you did there with your hands there. So
little key was hot hands in the pockets and Vaseline on the face to keep the wind from getting you windburned on the face.
Look at that, the old Vaseline ball from Eddie Harris. The old Major League days there.
Nice.
Can't go wrong with that. Josh, again, thank you very much. It helps that Holy Name not only was literally right down the street from us last week, but they've they've showed up every time that we've come out to see them. So they advance. They are the only team in our coverage area left. So they will be playing in the Division III semifinal. We'll cover that here in a little bit. Let's finish up real quick with Sean's PowerPoint for this week before we get to our guests. And the last region in our coverage area is Division IV, Region 14, and the number 1 seed, the Glenville Tarblooders. They defeat Van Wert 42-33. This was a tough game for Glenville. They played. Van Wert is a very worthy opponent. They were state champions 2 years ago during the pandemic year. They did win this 2020 state championship. They pulled off a couple upsets to get to this point, and they gave Glenville all they can handle. But for Glenville, it was Deshaunte Jones. We talked about him last week against Elyria Catholic, and he put on quite the performance this week. He had 31 rushes for 287 yards and 5 touchdowns. Deontay Rucker completed 12 of 16 passes for about 144 yards. Now, Van Wert came to play, and Coach again talked about it after the game in the article on Cleveland.com. It's a well-coached team, and they gave Glenville all they can handle. And with Glenville, they have the athletes, they have the speed, they have the toughness, they have the physicality, and they're going to be a tough out. They are still looking for the first state championship in Cleveland Municipal School District history. They've had a couple of good looks at it in the last decade or so. I think they have a real good look at this one, especially given the fact that one of their probably tougher challenges was defeated in the Division 13 regional championship. Beloit West Branch lost to Jefferson area, so that speaks to how good Jefferson area is. But Glenville will take on Jefferson area. We'll talk about that game here in a little bit. So that wraps it up for our recaps this week, guys. And again, just overall this season, 41 teams is certainly nothing to shake at. And I think we tried to do our best to make sure we got some coverage to every team, at least talked about them. we certainly appreciate any sort of help or assistance that fans, administrators, coaches, players have given us over the course of the season. The more information we get, the merrier, because we're here to promote your programs. We want to promote the student athletes. We want to provide. We know there's a little bit of a void in coverage in some of the teams around here. We're trying to fill that void. We want to make sure that your programs get the publicity that they deserve throughout the season. So, it looks like we're going to start. We are going to have our two guests joining right now. Again, we have and it looks like we're good. We are very, very happy and very, very pleased to be joined by the Division III Region 10 champions to add on to their Great Lakes East Division and Great Lakes Conference championships. We are joined by quarterback Jayvon Williams and head coach of the Green Wave, Dan Wondolowski. Good evening, guys. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Coach Wondolowski, first off, thank you for joining us. You're a fellow Mount Union guy as well. I think I just missed you. I started my freshman year was 2002.
Yeah, I was 01.
Yeah. So that was so I think I played with a lot of your teammates there then with Dan Pugh and Adamson and Matt Campbell and those guys. Jason
absolutely.
Campbell was like one of the GAs, and well, that was a fun team.
Yeah, it was a fun time down there for sure.
Goodness. So let's start with you, Coach. Congratulations. You've been with the Holy Name for quite a while now, and you've been building up to this point. 3 straight years in the regional championship. This year, you got a couple banners to put up from the Eastern Conference and the Great Lakes Conference Championship, and you got the regional one to go with it now. I know your season's still going on, but talk about where you're at right now. Like how are
I mean, first and foremost, the guys, their dedication in the off season, this senior class, the leadership they have, and then just the support we get from the school community. It's unbelievable. It starts from the top with, our principal, Karen Carter, and our athletic director, Rich Kozub. They give us a lot of stuff, the support from them, and then the student body showing up week in and week out to support us. It's huge. But the season wise, it's 1 week at a time for us. It's we don't look ahead. We don't worry about the past. We just worry about that week that we have. So right now, we enjoyed ourselves Friday, a little bit Saturday, and coaches got back to work Saturday afternoon. Kids got their treatment. Sunday we game planned, and we're just we're excited to be where we're at, but it's back to work for us.
Jayvon, Coach, I know we're taking 1 week at a time, but we're going to look back a little bit. Jayvon, glad to see you're not running anymore, because you ran a whole heck of a lot on Friday night. But just what a great performance you had. 274 yards, 4 touchdowns. You guys really had the running game going with over 500 yards of offense on the ground. But just talk about for yourself, you seem to be in a zone that game. So I was at the game just kind of watching you in warm-ups and your whole team, but especially you seem to be in a zone like you had a mission. Talk about just how you prep for that game and how the game went for you.
We had a good week of practice. It starts with that, and the scout team is out there with us. And, we just came into the game not looking at it as a rival, and we just wanted to take one play at a time and get it done as a team.
Jayvon, it was interesting because Josh was at the game, as he mentioned. He was tweeting us, or he was texting us saying, man, they were just running all over. And I wanted to say this, but I'll say it now. Was it just to keep warm? Was that at that point? Like, you maybe at a certain point you're just running because it was like minus 20 with the wind chill, and that's just to keep the legs from cramping up? Because that's what I was picturing Josh doing, is trying to keep step for step with you guys, running the ball and having such success. But unfortunately, he told me he was not. He was standing by the heater, which is exactly what I would have done. But yeah, it was really impressive. And one of the things I wanted to mention to Coach and you was, we had Christian and Austin on last week, and we touched on this early when we went over the recap. But they mentioned how important it was for you guys to get off to a fast start. And it's specifically because in a couple games this year, you kind of got behind the eight ball a little bit and had to battle back. Was that the mentality coming in all week? Was we got to start fast, or was it just something that kind of presented itself and you took advantage?
Yeah, we struggled in the beginning with coming out in the first quarter and first half, and we wanted to come into this game and just not give them a chance and stuff like that. So we just had to come out ready.
Yeah, Vaughn said it, in his previous comment about us coming out and not treating it as a rivalry game first and foremost. It was a regional championship game, and that was our mentality. Our guys have been there before, and then absolutely we said we had to put at this point in the season you have to put 4 quarters together, and we had to start fast. We had to set the tone, and the guys they like Vaughn said, had a great week of practice, and they really, really took that message we preached all week and, performed on Friday night.
Hey, Coach, Rob here, and thanks for joining us, Jayvon, as well. Thanks for coming on our show tonight. We really appreciate your time. And Coach, first for you, how nice is it? Jayvon's running the football at a high level, and then you have Kristen and Austin running for you, too. We've seen Jayvon pass as well. You kind of have a balanced attack, but when it calls for running the football, you guys did it with success, obviously, versus Padua. And the snow was coming down a little bit there in the second quarter. We saw from Josh's highlights. Talk a little bit about your running game and the guys up front on that offensive line and what success they had versus Padua.
Yeah, first, to have a talent like Vaughn, he's a special player, dual threat quarterback. To have him back there and be able to have a big play at any given moment, that's huge for us. Christian and Austin, great guys, great players. But we're forgetting one guy there, Keyshawn Gardner. He didn't touch the ball. Friday night, or maybe had 1 or 2 carries, but he has big play capability as well. So we really have 4 guys that could break one at any given moment. And then the guys up front, Logan Burton, senior offensive lineman, Jeremy Wallace, Zach Sugalewski, I know I'm missing somebody there, Jayvon Santiago, those guys, Steve Bowling, you got 4 or 5 seniors on that offensive line. It took a while because last year we graduated 4 or 5. And we're going to do the same thing again this year. Early on, they had their struggles, not saying they performed bad, but, they were getting their feet underneath them. But really for those seniors to step up and the way they performed Friday night was just huge for us.
Yeah. And
we're talking with, Holy Name head coach Dan Wondolowski and Holy Name senior quarterback Jayvon Williams. Jayvon, we talked about this a little bit earlier in the season, but we'll certainly bring it up again now since you've progressed even further in the playoffs. This is your, I think, 13th playoff game now that's coming up that you will have started. And Coach, we'll get to this question too, as I'm interested in your answer too. But all the experience you got, all this experience and success you guys have had in the playoffs, how much of that has helped you guys this year, not only in the regular season, but also in the playoffs?
We've been here the past 3 years with me playing, me starting and stuff like that. And, it just gives us, more motivation to keep going and just taking each game one at a time and just taking another game at a time and just getting it done.
Absolutely. And Coach, from your side, I mean, that's you guys have had that's an extra almost full season that you've had with these guys and those past seniors. How much of a benefit is that for you as a coaching staff to be able to carry over some of those extra games that a lot of teams don't have the privilege of playing?
Yeah, I mean, anytime from the underclassmen, your freshmen, your sophomores, your juniors, to have an opportunity to even get 1 extra week of practice with them, that's huge for any program. Last 3 years to get 12 games, the last 3 years with the underclassmen. Again, it's fine tuning stuff. It's those young guys going through individual, getting coached, seeing the experience, understanding, not having the nerves of being in these situations. It's huge for any program. I mean, I was listening to you guys earlier. You know, you're talking about Hoban, you're talking about Avon, talking about Eds, Menor, all the great teams in Northeast Ohio, and those teams all have deep playoff runs year in and year out. And it's huge for their underclassmen to understand what goes into it and to see it firsthand. And then when it's their time to perform at that level.
And Coach, you guys have certainly built that. You guys have built that too. I mean, three straight runs to the regional championship, and now at the very least, a state semifinal appearance. And quite honestly, hopefully a lot more. Coming your guys' way. Jayvon, when it comes to well, I'll ask both of you guys this. I was talking when you guys saw offensively, you guys did a phenomenal job, obviously. But looking at your defense, so when you saw your defense just putting up zeros and really shutting down that Padua defense, how much confidence that to give you guys that knowing that our defense is playing up to as much, they're playing up to par as much as you guys are, and you guys are playing in dominant fashion.
We help each other out. So when the defense is doing good, we offense just get that spark and just go out there and get the touchdowns and get the win at the end of the game. And I was in a little bit on defense, so I got some energy going there too. So I felt good.
Man, you didn't stop running on Friday night. Sounds like you're just keeping it warm all night. Obviously we want to put a cap on what you guys did. Congratulations on moving on, but obviously we're moving forward to this week in the state semifinals, going up against a team in Canfield that really has slayed the monster here in Chardon last week. Without giving too much away, both you, Jayvon, and Coach, what are some of the key things you guys need to do this week to come out with a victory? And for you, Coach, is it going to be managing we're coming into a weird week with with Thanksgiving holiday and things like that. Is it going to be even more important to be focused on, this being the job and the business trip that you normally do?
Yeah, absolutely. From a standpoint of that, we got the luxury this week. Our school, the kids are off all week, so they don't have to worry about classwork, so they can put the extra film time in. But looking at the game, you get to this point, everybody's good. There's no easy game. I mean, Canfield, unbelievable football program, unbelievable tradition that they have, over there, and just things we got to preach, and I'm sure Canfield's coach is doing the same thing. But at this point, the team that again makes the most mistakes, unfortunately, they're going to lose. And in a game like this, it could come down to one mistake only. And that's kind of the message I sent to the team tonight was hey, we got to play really, really good, sound, fundamental football, mistake-free football. This week. And it being the holiday week, first time ever, Holy Name, a football team gets to practice on Thanksgiving. I know in the past they had the charity game, which was played on Thanksgiving, but never had a Thanksgiving Day practice. So there's a couple special things for the program going on. Getting the alumni back on campus, which will be nice, but. Overall, we're not changing what we do this week. Again, it's that mental side of things, and our guys, week in and week out, they're up to the challenge, and I feel they'll be up to this challenge this week.
Jayvon, congratulations on the win, but I know you, Christian, and Austin have felt kind of heartbreak these last 2 years, but how special is it that you, Christian, and Austin get to share in this moment for the first time in 47 years for this program?
Yeah, it means a lot to us for sure, because the past 2 years we fell short, but now it's just way different. New team, all of us coming together as seniors and just taking our leadership on the field. Starting with the coaches and they helping us out, and it's just all coming together, and we got to reach that one goal.
Coach, one last question for me, and kind of looking back at Friday's game, then we can officially wrap it up. You guys are up 35-0, and then Padua started coming back a little bit, gaining a little bit of momentum before half. They scored 14 points. You had a couple 3-and-outs there, and then they were getting the ball to start the second half. Just from your perspective and your assistant coach's perspective, what was the message at halftime? Were you feeling kind of a momentum shift, or were you trying to like refocus your guys' crew on the mission at hand? And coming out of the locker room, you got an important, stop, turnover, and you're able to force them to, to punt, and then you guys went back on your way of scoring touchdowns. But, what was that message at halftime?
I think there in the second quarter, we got a little complacent. We got a little relaxed, and guys dropped their intensity level. And you can't do that to a Padua. I mean, Padua is very talented. Tusai over there, having Cervenka, having Love, having Hall. Those guys are dangerous, and we dropped our level of intensity there for a minute. We went at halftime. It was a refocus, exactly. We got to come out. We got to get the stop. Defensive coaches, they do a tremendous job with our defense, and those guys got the guys back into the right frame of mind, and it was awesome to get that stop.
All right. Well, Coach and Jayvon, we appreciate you guys coming on. Thank you so much for joining us. We've had a really, really, we were telling Jayvon and even Austin and Christian last week, we've had a really, really good time covering you guys for the last 3 years. Your program's been very successful. It's been awesome seeing seeing Holy Name progress through the playoffs the last few years, and even better to see you guys break through the regional ground, get the championship, and move on to the next round. We're very, very happy for you guys, and we're all pulling for you. Out of our coverage area, you're the last team left. So we want to keep going. So in the very 0.0002% that you guys care about that, we would love for you guys to keep us going.
We appreciate Holy Name. I'm sure the conference coaches and all the coaches in Northeast Ohio, the media coverage, guys stepping up, Sports on Tap, doing your thing. That's awesome for these guys playing on Friday nights, to give them that little extra special feeling. So I appreciate what you guys do as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Very
we
good.
appreciate it. Good luck, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
That is head coach of the Holy Name Green Wave, Dan Wondolowski, and senior quarterback Jayvon Williams. They will be taking on them, and the rest of the Green Wave will be taking on the Canfield Cardinals. This game will be played Friday night at Euclid Memorial Stadium. That's one of the best venues that you can play a game and or watch a game in. Through some of my experiences at Brunswick, I've been there multiple times. We've been there multiple times covering games. And that's a great stadium. So I'll tell you what, I have to say, probably from a travel standpoint, advantage goes to Holy Name. I think Parma is a little bit closer to Euclid than Canfield is, but that's certainly not going to stop Canfield. They are a beast of a team. So great interviews there. Lucky to have them come on, and especially preparing for such a huge game coming up here. So let's we can cover that game a little bit here, but let's get to it with as far as the state semifinals. Sean has a PowerPoint here too, and I'll read out the matchups as we get going here. There's a little bit of question as to where some of these teams are going to go depending on who won. The OHSAA, despite my issue with them last week, they do try to keep things geographical as far as the state semifinals are concerned. So in the Division I state semifinals, it will be the Division I, Region I, defending, reigning, undisputed champion, the St. Edward Eagles. They will take on the Gahanna Lincoln. I believe they won Region II. That game will be at Mansfield Arlen Field, down in the pit there. That's a great stadium to watch a game in too. That's a very, very good venue. And then the other matchup, it will be Cincinnati Archbishop Moeller, the Division I Region 4 champions, taking on Springfield, who won Division I Region 3 for the second consecutive year. And they're looking for a rematch with St. Ed's. That would be a rematch of last year's state championship game. I got to say, Josh and Noah, I think it's St. Ed's until someone knocks them off.
I agree with you for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll see what happens there. Again, those games, Moeller and Springfield will be playing in Pequot at Alexander Stadium. Those games will be played on Friday night.
It's pronounced Piqua. Sorry.
Sorry.
My Dayton friends will murder me if I let you get away with Pequa. I want to call them Pequa because I don't like Piqua, but I'm not going to short them on their name.
Do it, Ed. Keep calling them.
You can call them.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, Ed, that was a great effort, though. Great effort.
That was great. Hey, listen, I applaud your effort, and it killed me to interrupt to correct you, but I would not live it down if I didn't correct you.
Fair enough. I appreciate the assistance there and also the cheerleading from our EVP of social media. The Division II state semifinals, we'll see the Division II Region 5 champion, the Archbishop Hoban Knights, will take on the Massillon Washington Tigers, the Division II Region 7 champions. That game will be played at InfoCision Stadium in Akron, Ohio. They will most likely draw more people at that game than an actual Akron Zips game.
For the season. For the season,
yes. The Zips are not good. Nor do they draw. But Hoban and Massillon will most certainly draw in this game. I apologize to Akron. That's a low blow.
No, you don't need to apologize to Akron.
Okay.
Hey, they're working on getting back up. They have a new head coach. They're trying to turn things
they're
around.
A basketball school. They're a basketball school with a football program.
And a great stadium.
Yeah,
to host
the stadium
a
is
Division II state semifinal.
I mean, it doesn't get much. That stadium is very, very nice. Definitely better than the Rubber Bowl. But I digress. The other state semifinals, we'll see the Division II Region 6 champion, the Toledo Central Catholic Fighting Irish, will take on Kings Mills Kings. They are the Division II Region 8 champion. They are the team that slayed Cincinnati Winton Woods. And I one of my former teammates at Mount Union went to Kings. It was a very, very successful kicker there, George Wilders from back in the day. That game will be played at Wapakoneta on Friday night. So this
great
is a
effort. Great effort.
That's actually how you pronounce it.
I know, but it's a good effort. I'm just saying.
I would say here, Rob and Sean, I mean, we know what Massillon brings to the table. Massillon defeated St. Ed's. Archbishop Hoban lost to St. Ed's. They have a common opponent in that respect where you have differing results. I would say still with Winton Woods out of the way, it's probably Hoban's in my mind to lose even at this point. What do you guys think?
I think.
Well,
go ahead, Sean.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And to your point, Ed, Massillon, Archbishop Hoban, should be a great game in a great stadium, Akron. But I think Massillon will probably be the better team coming into Akron, I'd say.
Whoa.
All right. He's sticking his neck out.
I mean,
I like that.
I agree. Massillon Washington has had a good year. They've always been really tough. And I think if Avon would have beaten Toledo Central Catholic, they still would have been matched up, I believe, with Archbishop Hoban. I think it would have went that route. So actually, for Archbishop Hoban to face Massillon, that's going to be a heck of a matchup. And I think this game could be a little bit closer, but I still think Hoban's on top when you look at where they've been and who they've beaten. I think they're still on top, obviously, until they're beaten. And Massillon's a team that could do it. It's going to be a tough one for Archbishop Hoban. And Toledo Central Catholic, they got a tough feat. I mean, Kings Mills, like you said, came off of a big win against Cincinnati, Winton Woods. So I think they're going to have an uphill climb there, Toledo Central Catholic, with that. But they've continually won. So two really good matchups coming up in the Division II state semifinals.
I think if you look at these two games alone, what sticks out to me is that Archbishop Hoban and Massillon Washington are not unfamiliar foes. They've crossed paths before. I got to give the nod here to Hoban simply because you look at a team that can rely on a running back like Lamar Sperling and what he can produce and what they've been doing defensively throughout this playoffs. They just keep getting better. They have a tall task in Massillon, Washington, but I just think something about the way Hoban has been playing this year. It's been gritty. It's been grindy. They're not afraid to make this a low scoring game. They don't need to score a ton of points, but they will if they have to. Flip side, Toledo Central Catholic. Toledo Central Catholic has beaten 1 and 2 in our Power 10 rankings in back-to-back weeks decidedly. I mean, look, Avon came back and almost won that game, but Rob, there was a time during that game where Toledo Central Catholic was in complete control. Going back to when Toledo Central Catholic ran roughshod over a Highland defense that to that point had only given up 28 points in one game. So I think right now the matchup, the team for me, taking nothing away from Kings and Massillon, the matchup I want to see is Toledo Central Catholic versus Hoban, because I think those are the two big dogs in this division right now. With taking Winton Woods out of the equation, because that's what Kings Mills did. That's great, but can they continue that success? We'll see. But I just, where Toledo Central Catholic is playing right now is another level, and Hoban is just continually getting better week to week.
Plus, Kings Mills Kings is very hard to say. Let's admit
it's very hard to say. They're right by Kings Island. I played them in high school. We beat them in high school.
There was a football game that was played, and Kings Mills Kings dominated.
The Aviators!
No, I'm sorry. When you're talking about 2002 Division II playoffs, you better put some respect on Vandalia Butler's name, because we went into Kings on the road and whooped.
Whoa!
Kings Mills Kings. They defeated Winton Woods 23-16 in the regional semifinals. They did avenge an earlier loss to Winton Woods earlier in the season, 23-28. That's their only loss. They avenged that one. They defeated Cincinnati Anderson to get to the state semifinals. That was a rematch of a Week 10 matchup. So their road was certainly not easy by any stretch of the imagination. And Sean, I agree with you. Toledo Central Catholic took our two best teams as far as our rankings were concerned, and throttled them for all intents and purposes. So they are certainly not a team to mess with. So there's a lot of interesting lot of interesting matchups, and a lot of things to talk about with these two matchups, and then even more so for the state title coming up next week. Division 3 region, the Division 3 state semifinals. We'll see the Canfield Cardinals, the champions of Division 3 Region 9. They will take on the Holy Name Green Wave, the Division 3 Region 10 champions, the champions of the Great Lakes Conference East Division, and the champions of the Great Lakes Conference. That game will be played again at Euclid Memorial Stadium in Euclid, Ohio. The game will be played on Friday night, and then it will be Bloom Carroll taking on Tip City, Tippecanoe. That game will be played at Bolus Field in London. I have no idea where that's at. I'm assuming it's in like the southwestern end of Ohio.
Midway between Columbus and Dayton.
I was just saying, you mean they're not doing the NFL thing? They're not playing in London at 9:30
No,
a.m.?
they're not flying. They're not flying on two Ohio teams over the pond to play. But just, I know we talked about Holy Name and Canfield. I think that's a great matchup. I do have some inside sources, friends that I actually played high school football with that currently live in Tip City, Tippecanoe High School. Let me explain something to you, how big this game is in that town. They are pumped for this game against Bloom Carroll. This team is a very good football team. They can run it, they can throw it, and they play really, really good defense. I spoke with some of my inside sources, and they have assured me that Tippecanoe will take care of Bloom Carroll this week. Now, I'm taking that with a grain of salt. But that whole town will be going to London to watch this game, as the way that works in Tip City. But I'm actually more interested in this Canfield Holy Name, because Canfield is not blowing teams out. They're not blowing teams out. They didn't blow Chardon out. They won a very, very tight game, but they hung in there. Their last couple games, guys, have been like one-score wins, which tells me one thing. Canfield is not afraid to get into a slugfest with a team. They can stop teams from scoring, and they've done it over the past 3 weeks in the playoffs. Look for Canfield to come out and defensively and try and punch Holy Name in the mouth and stop that running game and force Jayvon Williams to find receivers down the field. It's not that he can't do it; he just hasn't had to do it in the last couple of games because the running game. If you have an opportunity to beat Holy Name, you gotta get them to, one, make mistakes, as Coach Wondolowski mentioned. It's going to be a game of mistakes here. Who makes the least? That's probably going to be who wins this game. But I'm really excited to see who comes out of these two state semifinals, because it's entertaining to me, because I know some of the teams now that are involved. It's the first time in the last couple of years that I've been able to, in the Division III at least, know 2 of the 4 teams that are coming out. I mean, obviously we knew Chardon, but Chardon's kind of like, St. Ed's in Division III. They're always there, but they're not there this year.
Just look at it. Wow.
But I'll tell you what, we certainly appreciate the additional knowledge there, because I don't know anything about Bloom Carroll or Tippecanoe.
Tip City, baby.
Tip City, baby.
Sean, you bring up a good point about Canfield. I mean, they do play. They can score, but they also can play good defense, especially when it counts. Their only losses to a very good Youngstown Cheney team that was a 16-13 game. Cheney kind of came out of nowhere this year to have a very successful year. They're very athletic as well, similar to that of Holy Name. So we'll see what Holy Name can do here. Canfield's run through the playoffs. They took out Aurora. They defeated Ursuline. Ursuline is certainly no joke in Division III. They're a traditional Youngstown power. New Philadelphia, for some reason, they're always a tough out in the first round of the playoffs. They defeated them as well. And then obviously beating Chardon, that carries a lot of weight. The only team Riverside is the only team that can say that they did that, and Riverside sees them every year. And you had to think that at some point Riverside was going to get to that point where they were able to take them out. Canfield and Chardon, I'm sure they've played. I don't know if I'm sure they've played in the past. But for Canfield to shut down Chardon's running attack, which is very, very good, is something that we don't see very often. For Holy Name, you have a 3-headed monster, and even Coach Wondolowski mentioned a 4-headed monster with a player that doesn't get a whole lot of run now. But when you have the efficiency of Jayvon Williams, Austin Wondolowski, and Christian Sanchez, and that offensive line that just completely mauled Padua, both teams are looking at the tape right now. They're going to see where they can find some mismatches and see what they can do. I'm certainly hoping that Holy Name can pull this one off, and to keep our representation going, and hopefully get to a state championship game. That would be fantastic. The last one is Division IV. The Division IV state semifinals. The champions of Division IV Region 14, the Glenville Tarblooders, are going to take on the Division 4 Region 13 champion Jefferson Area. Jefferson Area took out Beloit West Branch, which is the prohibitive favorite in that region. So that game will be very interesting. That game is going to be played at Alumni Stadium in Perry, Ohio. So Glenville will travel there, and then Steubenville won Division 4 Region 15. They're going to take on Cincinnati, Wyoming, the Division 4 Region 16 champions. That game will be played at historic Crew Stadium right outside of Columbus. That's a great venue just to watch a soccer game, and I can't imagine what it's going to be for a football game. But we know what Glenville can do. Deshaunte Jones has just been an absolute monster this year. And I have no doubt that Coach Gen's going to continue to ride him. Demarion Witten is a tight end commit for Ohio State, a big-bodied. If they need him to go up and catch some balls, they certainly have the ability to do that. They're fast, they're physical, and they really haven't met too much of their match this year. Sans for Van Wert last week, so we'll see what Jefferson Area can do there. Sean, do you know anything about Cincinnati, Wyoming by chance?
Not much. I do know that obviously they have had a very good season, but any team coming out of Cincinnati, usually has a pedigree about that. I don't have a lot of information on the Cincinnati teams.
Go ahead.
We're here, Sean.
No,
we're right here. We're right here, Sean.
Josh is laughing at me. Sorry, I got a
right
dog
here.
behind me that is chewing on stuff, and I'm trying to make sure he doesn't chew on like cords. So give me a break. I'm trying not to do it. No one can see me on camera, so let's stop
true.
me out, Josh. I'm trying to make sure a dog doesn't chew his way through my cords.
It's the show beyond the show that's
That's
makes
right,
it even
man.
more entertaining.
That's right.
But a team like Steubenville is they're a traditional power as well. It looks like they play a mainly independent schedule. They play teams from Maryland, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Washington D.C. They've been very successful. Their only loss right now is to a 9-1 Lindsley team in West Virginia, and Rock Creek Christian in Maryland that was defeated by St. Ed's earlier this year, but have otherwise been very successful. So. Steubenville is one of those teams that they kind of live out in the by the Pennsylvania area, but is very, very successful. And to your point, Sean, whenever you attach a Cincinnati name to a team, especially like Wyoming, they were the number 1 seed. They're undefeated. They've run. It was a 7-0 victory over Taft last week, which was a rematch of a Week 2 matchup. Those were the closest games that were against Taft this year. So we'll certainly see what happens there. But that is what Sean likes to say is fit to print for the regional championship games. Again, we'll be we're in the state semifinal round. There is one team left. It is the Holy Name Green Wave, representing the Great Lakes Conference as the Great Lakes Conference champions, going into Euclid to take on Canfield. Gentlemen. And your last thoughts for the for the season, or for not for the season, but for the season and for the week.
Well, just kind of the weather guy that I like, and the weather guy I am looking at the forecast from Fox 8, one of the most trusted weather teams in Northeast Ohio. They're looking right now a 55% chance of rain, temperatures in the 40s, so decent weather for football. Not as cold as last week, so we'll see how, as we go through the week, how the weather may play a part in this week's game.
Yeah, you hope the rain doesn't affect some of these games, especially when 44 degrees isn't bad, but if it's going to rain, that could really play a huge part in the game. But good luck to Holy Name. We appreciate them coming on. Jayvon Williams and Coach Wondolowski, we appreciate them taking time to come on our show, and hopefully they can pull something off and continue their journey on, because they've had such a special year so far, and a lot of fun talking to those kids. So hopefully they can pull it off and get a big win. But a lot of great games, a lot of great matchups I think are going to be fun to watch and scoreboard watch, and it's just been a great season overall. I mean, we've had a lot of fun and some upsets this year. We've had a lot of great video highlights, a lot of great games we've gone to throughout the year, and want to thank everyone here from Sports on Tap and everybody that's watched this show, that have contributed to our show, whether it's making comments on our YouTube Live while this is going on, checking out our website, sportsontappodcast.com, or our social media. So it's been.
Are we done, Rob?
No.
Are we done for? Sounds like you're giving the obituary here.
No,
I'm coming back next Monday. I don't know about you guys, but
well, we'll have to see. No, yeah, we are coming back, but still, it's been a fun ride thus far, and we got a few weeks left. We got semifinals, we got the championships, so hopefully
Rob, just because one season has to come to an end does not mean that you are done with Sports on Tap. In fact, I am going to take the reins and announce that we at Sports on Tap will be doing our annual Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League preview show live December 4th. That is a Sunday. Right? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Ed made a face, and I got concerned. So yes, Sunday. We will go ahead and break down this coming season for the Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League. We're talking red division. We're talking white division. We're talking all 3 blue divisions as a spoiler coming in. And we're hoping to get some coaches on to give us a preview of what their team looks like coming in. And as always, we are going to be out and about. You're going to be able to see us calling the action, shooting the action. Josh is going to be on the boards. We're going to get one of those vests that comes right here that he wears so he can just walk around with a camera
We
on.
should just put him on the ice.
We're even going to bring Noah into things and make him walk around with a camera for no other reason than just be like, look at Noah with a camera down there.
I think he might be wearing skates and skating on the ice with a camera. Now that's the action we need.
We'll get him some old hockey pads.
Yeah.
And just have him walk around with a camera. Not your camera, Rob. I mean, we'll make him buy his own.
I'll just let him use his phone. That's fine.
I'm just looking forward to hearing the one that only the voice of the Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League, Ed Dick, back on the call, dropping some pipe bombs.
Yeah. And I'll be there. And I'll be there trying to figure out the game of hockey for the 4th straight year.
Well, actually, Sean, since you're still trying to figure out the game of hockey,
am I fired? Is that what it is?
Didn't you get the pink slip?
I did not. But yeah, with that is coming up, Rob and guys, on the 4th. So please make sure, if you haven't yet, go ahead, subscribe to our YouTube page, smash the like button, kill the subscribe button, get notifications so that you can be there live Saturday or Sunday night, December 4th, as we break down the 22-23 season of the Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League. But that's all I got to say about that.
Nice work.
Hit the print. Very well done, sir. And I think that's a good way to end it there. So again, make sure you smash the like button, hit the notifications, get those or subscribe, get those notifications when we're coming on the air and talking to hear about the Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League, and then more specifically, check out our games. If you want to watch a good hockey game, make sure you follow Sports on Tap. We're going to be all over the place this year. In anticipation for our for the Barron Cup tournament, again, which we have been very lucky to shoot for the last couple of weeks or last couple of years. So, again, right now we will. Right now, it's all about Holy Name for Sports on Tap. So, Holy Name is the last team standing. Again, they will take on Canfield at Euclid Stadium this coming Friday night, along with a bunch of other great matchups that we went over here earlier as well. Again, for Bandwagon Fantasy Sports, Ray Felton, State Farm Insurance, GB Art and Design, RRT Productions, and G&G Fitness Equipment. For Rob Trautman, Noah Jacobson, Sean Duffy, and Josh Jeffy, my name is Ed Dick. We are Sports on Tap, and we will see you on the other side.